Nice to meet you all. Wycliffe, boy, let me make sure that my phone is off. How's everyone doing today?
Awesome.
So, Doc told me we can do whatever we want to in this master class. I could talk the whole time. I'd rather not do that. If anyone wants to play, demonstrate something, to perform something, want me to hear something, I'm happy to hear you all play. I'm just going to start out by just giving you a little spiel on my approach to learning music. Well, I'm mostly known as a jazz musician, but that's by no means all that I do as a musician. But I made my career playing jazz. I started out with the, went to the restroom, sorry. Went to Marshall Septet, and went on to play with Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, and then I started teaching, my first teaching job being at Michigan State, and then also at Juilliard for 7 years, Manhattan School for 7 years, and I threatened for many years to come back home, and I'm finally back home in Georgia, so I'm living in Augusta, right now teaching at Augusta University, and I know there are a few students that are attending here that I met in Augusta that either went to, one of the high schools, either Davidson, they're here in school and participating in your music program. And anyway, at any rate, my main instrument is trombone. I play about 23 instruments, not all at the same time. But this is one that I'm most familiar with and the one I kind of made my career with. So I'm going to talk about something that had I known then, things may have been different. But I'm going to talk about singing it first, my approach to playing everything and every aspect of my playing, whether it's pedagogical in terms of working on tongue, hearing, and I'll try to keep it really simple. And anytime you have a question, just raise your hands, ask. Don't be afraid to ask your question, and please, by all means, don't ask at the end of the master class. I'm going to stay around and talk with you, but oftentimes I hear, I don't want to ask my question because I thought it was a stupid question or a dumb question or it was a silly question. There's no such thing. If you have a question, ask. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you I don't know. But the thing is, someone else may have that same question, and it's like, questions that fall into those categories of being silly, dumb, or stupid, whatever, however you want to describe it, are those that remain unanswered because you're afraid to ask. So ask. Anyway, I haven't played today, and I don't really like to get to the gig like 2 or 3 hours before and sit down and warm up. So I'm gonna do example for you kind of how I warm up. It's not a good idea to do it this way, but I do. It takes about 4 or 5 minutes, and it's oftentimes always improvised. So. That's it. So that's not a good way to warm up. But I mean, that's what I do. If I don't get to the gig, I don't like to sit around for hours. And sometimes I just want to touch on things that I may want to call on during the night. I was trying to do multiphonics, but for some reason, I had a show in Augusta last night where I was playing, singing, and conducting, and it's not clear. I was trying to do this. See, it's cracking. I'm trying to sing 2 octaves up, but I'm gonna have to warm my voice up today. And a couple of times when I was playing, I did this. Then so I raised my horn up because I remind myself if I'm going for something and I didn't play it, it was because I didn't have a good breath or airflow. So everything that I just played, I try to sing. You notice that I started off kind of low, playing pedal tones. All trombone players, low brass, we like to play the low notes. So doesn't matter what you've been playing all day, something about that pedal B flat just feels good on the chops. And I was playing that, and then I started to get warmer. It went from and as my chops got warmer, I began to go higher. Eventually, and as my chops were getting warm and I felt like the blood was flowing, then I started to incorporate the tongue. The double tonguing. And then I tried to incorporate singing, but I was having trouble doing the singing thing today. I was trying to push the air through as I was singing, but that's kind of how it works for me and how I work on those things. Everything I played or even attempted to play, I try to sing it. So if you're riding in the car with me, you'll probably see me doing, because I play valve instruments also, probably doing the fingering, like probably singing, or and maybe I'm walking around doing that because my hands can be by my side and I'm still working on music. And even though trombone is my first instrument, I figure if I walk around doing it like this, but people may think that I got out. So it's like, watch that dude, go get him. He's walking around doing like this. So oftentimes I just do the fingering on my lap in the car or when I'm walking around. I'm always hearing music, and most often trombone is not the first instrument that I play. I have several instruments that I play out in a little space in my music room. I probably would sit down and play the piano. And when I'm talking about singing, I try to sing what I play, and I try to play what I sing. So I mean, I'm going to start. I'm going to ask questions all throughout. Who can tell me what the hardest part of practicing is? Yes.
Consistency.
Say it again.
Consistency.
Consistency can be difficult. Anyone else? Yes.
Getting out of your own head.
Getting out of your own head can be difficult. Yes.
Getting your horn out.
Picking the fundamentals and not the fun stuff. Those are all great answers. Everyone, just when you when you think you have the answer, go ahead and shoot them to me. All those answers are correct, but there's one that I'm looking for that's very, very simple. All of those things can be difficult. Yes. Say it again. Getting yourself to practice. I mean, like getting there. I mean, that's the answer. That's the hardest part about practicing, getting started. All of those things you're talking about, you have to be practicing in order to get there. To get to those things you want to work on, the fundamentals versus the fun stuff. By the way, the fundamentals are the fun stuff. Mm-hmm. So the hardest part of practice is simply getting started. So got to take your horn out of the case. You got to get a practice room. You have to get a practice time. Then you have to get a room and a time to coordinate. And then all of that. But singing, you can do as soon as you get up. I do it when I get up in the morning. And it may start out in my still kind of gravelly voice. But I'm singing. And what am I working on? Everything. From tonguing. Helps to have clear sinuses also. Mm-hmm. I work on that by not doing it in the horn. You have to put it on the horn, but I work on it by singing it first. Phrases that I play. Ooh, shoot me, papa, yeah, do 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 dee. You're gonna have to bear with me today, but anything I play on the trombone, this is what I was trying to sing. I can hear what it is that I'm singing, but my voice is what it is this morning, this afternoon. What time is it? At the piano, same thing. I will sit to the piano before I play the trombone. Because why? Because I can hear this.
Shadow of your smile?
Shadow of your smile?
Or something like that.
Not quite. You can put the word shadow of your smile, but
I know but I can't think of the name.
Which
of
one?
Mm-hmm.
Autumn Leaves. That's you're wrong twice.
Yes.
Autumn Leaves is this. It has some of the same changes, but the melody is.
That's it.
All the things you are.
That's
That's
it.
it. All the things you are. And I picked this song because like a lot of those songs that we have in a lot of Western music, it uses like a 2-5-1 progression. So this camp, let me see who's in the room. How many jazz players we have here? Great, most of you all are not. So I want to talk about this. How many people in here improvise? Great, everyone should. I mean, everyone should raise their hands because we're going to improvise. Not just on your instruments, we improvise when we have a conversation. Like, I know what I want to say to you, but I'm improvising how I'm going to get the message across. So, and a matter of fact, I probably want to take someone who has improvised before and someone who has not, to show you how simple it is. This is what I do at the piano. Still trying to find that spot. But I try to sing things that I play, and then I try to play things that I sing. And the reason I talk about singing and practicing earlier is you can always sing something that you're working on. You want to learn a melody? You know, sing the melody. You can play it at the piano. You can play it on the trumpet, trombone, tuba, oboe, flute, lute. It doesn't matter. If you have enough breath support and your embouchure set in the right mode of resonance, you're going to produce the note. You hit it on the piano, you're going to produce the note. Yes, you'll hear it coming from the instrument. But if you can sing it, that means you hear it coming from you. And this is where improvisation gets really interesting for me. I've traveled a lot and I listen to a lot of musicians, you know, classically trained, say, I can't improvise, I don't improvise. The greatest classical musicians and soloists, they all improvise. And then I show them how easy it is to improvise. First of all, you have to get outside of not be afraid to learn a new way. Put your horn down, sing. When you pick up your horn, your instrument, and if your instrument happens to be your voice, then just get out of your head and just try something different. I'm gonna use the song, All the Things You Are, why I choose that song. And I want someone who knows, who gets the name of the song. Is that you? Yeah, you know the song? Anyone of you ever played it before? Cool. Let me get one of you guys that played it before, someone that's never heard it before, to come down to the piano. I'm going to show you how simple it is.
Be brave.
Come on, Mr. Hat.
I got you.
And the lady. What instrument do you play?
Trombone, sir.
Trombone. You have your trombone?
In the other room.
Okay. All right, well, you have your voice. That's
I do
you
have my voice.
You play trombone as well?
I play trumpet.
You play trumpet? I'm gonna call that against you. I'm kidding, I play trumpet. Yo, trumpet players, I love trumpet players. My wife plays trumpet. So, you haven't heard this song before. We're gonna start with just the first 8 bars, and we're gonna break it down into simple phrases and just show you how easy it is to improvise. Anyone tell me what improvise means? What it means, improvisation means? Give me a definition, or 2 or 3. Anyone? Yes.
It's having a conversation between instruments.
Having a conversation between instruments. You can improvise. That's part of improvisation. It could be a dialogue, call and response. Yes.
To adapt to something by adding things.
Say it again.
To adapt to something by adding things.
To adapt to somebody adding things. That's another great answer. Yes, ma'am.
Unscripted.
Say it again.
Unscripted.
Something is unscripted. All of these things happen in improvisation. Yes, I'll just go down the line.
Faking it until you make it.
She said, fake it till you make it. that could be a good concept. You know, I call it fishing, kind of like, yeah, you're fishing for no jet, fake it till you make it. Yeah, do that. What that does, it sounds kind of funny, but it means you're not afraid to try, and that's all you have to do. Everyone can improvise. Fake it till you make it if you have to. But yes. Oh yeah?
Make it up as you go along.
You make it up as you go along. That was going to be your answer? Look, all the answers are right. Because it's about your perspective. And my perspective 40 years ago, or however long ago when I started playing, 38 years ago is a little different than now. I had the same thing. But then I had to learn that we all naturally hear music. And then I'll give an example of that later. So we got someone that's played all the things you are. I'm going to tell you about the song. It'll get a little technical, but I'm not going to go too deep. In the first 7 bars, there are 8 chord changes. It's F minor 7 to B flat minor 7 to E flat 7, then A flat major 7, then D flat major 7, then it goes to G7, and then C major 7 for 2 bars. So that's 7 chord changes. Like, man, that's a lot. You know, if you're trying to sit there and figure it out mathematically. F minor 7, F, A flat, C flat, E flat, then B flat, D flat, F, and A flat. Yeah, F minor 7, you can kind of move it. B flat minor 7, E flat 7, A flat major 7, D flat major 7, and then you have G7 to C7 for 2 bars. It's 7 chord changes, but it's only 2 tonalities. One is the A flat scale, so I'm going to play it again. So the melody is la, 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 I'm going to try to find my voice. That's the melody. But if you start out, listen. Major scale and the C major scale, and playing the piano kind of helped me to learn that and to see that and to figure it out. Even when I started playing jazz, I was like, I'm thinking about scales. If you take 7 different chord changes, then you just change it into 2 tonalities. It opens up your palette for sound in which you can create. You don't have to think about everything mathematical. Now you have a sound palette from which you can begin to do your improvisation, but you have to know your major scales. Who that said fake it till you make it? Was that you? You know your major scales?
For the most part, yes.
Yeah, for the most part. Well, fix the most part and learn the rest of them for all the parts. So what?
Yeah, exactly.
Say it again.
I said fake it till you make it.
But you don't have to fake scale. Your basics. I'm gonna talk about that today. You learn your basics. If you learn your basic information in music, you can improvise. And we're gonna give that example right now. So we're just gonna play in 2-bar phrases, and I want you to, when you have your instrument in your hand, you have your way that you learn. You have to play this way. You have to articulate this way. You have to sit a certain. You have all these things that you have to do. But being a musician simply means it's okay to be yourself and to sing what it is that you hear, or to play what it is that you hear. I'm gonna hear from, what's your name?
Austin.
Austin, let's hear it for Austin, y'all. Cynthia. Sophia. Oh, and let's hear it for Sophia. So I'm just gonna do this without any parameters. I just want you to sing. I'm gonna play it slowly because this is important to do everything slowly so that you can take in the information and also not have to think about doing things so fast. So I'm gonna play the chord changes, 3, 4, and I'm gonna do that for the first 8 bars, and you sing whatever it is that you're hearing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ba-do-da, da, ba-da-do-da, ba-ba-ba-da, da-da-da-do-da, ba-da-da-da, da-da.
Nice, that was really nice. improvised before? Yeah, so you're gonna sing. You don't have your trumpet in your hand. You don't have to think about, when sometimes we're improvising, we're thinking about chords, the notes in the chords, what scale. You don't have to think about anything. Just listen to the music, because this is where music comes from, and it's my feeling that we all can hear music naturally. And so and I want you to sing whatever you're hearing. Same thing, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. See, that was pretty good. She's being pretty shy about it, but you saw when she heard the note, she automatically fixed it. Oftentimes when we're playing horns, it's like we get stuck. Now, what do I do? What do I do? With your voice, you can change it immediately because you can hear. You're not stuck behind your horn, your instrument, or however you've been trained to play it. Because if you start to use your voice and just sing, you can test your hearing. But when you sing, it doesn't matter what key you're in. So now I'm going to give you a parameter. What she did was bringing up my next point. She created some type of a motif, and like it was in 2-bar phrases without whether you knew it or not. And this is all in classical music. Composers are improvisers. They take their melodies, and you ever hear like the let's see, the Carnival of Venice, theme and variations. You all heard that term before, theme and variations? Tell me what that means. Anyone? What are theme and variations? Yes.
You have one main theme, and then you have variations of that theme.
That's it. Theme and variations. Couldn't answer anymore. That's it. But you know what that is in jazz? What that means for jazz musicians? We play the melody. And the theme and variations a lot of times is through composed, meaning it's written by the composer. In jazz, we play the theme, which is the melody, and then we variate. Then we start to improvise. That's all it is. It's always different. That was a great answer. So I'm going to give you a motif. We're going to do it in 2-bar phrases. So I'll give you an example. Oh, man, I wish I could sing. Wow. I'm just going to sing down low. So that was just 1, 2, 3. Naturally going. Everyone can hear that right there. Okay, so I want you to come up with your own, and I'm gonna change it. Instead of swinging, I'm gonna make it like a little more of a groove. Ladies first this time. So when you suggest, it's gonna be like this. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's give a round of applause. Why don't you start out just simple? So like, just something simple. It was kind of like you were thinking until you started fishing, and it was cool. But just like a simple, just do the first 2 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so yeah, don't be afraid. Just do, or whatever you're gonna sing. I'm having trouble singing. I like to sing high, but it's not happening. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, don't use mine. Come on. I'll change it again. So I'm gonna just change the key. That was good. She said, I mean, whatever she's saying, that was nice. So give her a round. You didn't have to think about the key. Your turn. I'm going to go back to the original key. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ba 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 da. Ba 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 da. Da 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 da. Ba 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da.
Good. That was nice. They both had a melodic motif, but the thing that gives you the motif, its power, is the rhythm that you sang with. So let's thanks. Say your name again.
Austin.
Austin and Sophia. And what I would say that I'm gonna play something, and I want you to imitate me. Not the gravelness in my voice. But I'm going to sing something. I want you to sing it back, okay? Here we go. Ha-da. Ha-da. Ha, whoa, whoa. Whoa. Shoo-wee.
Shoo-wee.
What happened? What key are we in? Does it matter? No, it doesn't.
17.
We were kind of in B flat, but it didn't matter. You didn't have to think about fingerings. You didn't have to think about. You didn't even have to think about the notes. You heard it and you repeated what I did. Immediately, and I heard it thin out a little bit. And don't be afraid to try to do it. You sang what I sang, and I'm gonna show you how you work on improvisation. I want you to sing what I play now. 1, 2. Good. What key were we in?
17.
Absolutely. We're still kind of in B flat. Did you have to figure out the fingerings? Or you had to think about that? Or you heard it? And this is what I wish I had known when I was like, your age, when I started playing, how to work on improvisation. We had cassette players. Do you all know what those are? Yeah. Just checking. And I would listen to the record player on LP. You all know what those are? Just checking. And then put the needle back on the record to rewind the cassette player and then try to hear it. And instead, if you can sing it, that means, and you can sing it, and you can sing it accurately and in tune. And in rhythm, that means you already have the music. You got it. Then you can teach yourself to play it rather than figuring out the notes and then figuring out the rhythm on the instrument. It's like, oh man, what position he's playing in, and C, he's playing fast. Try to sing it first, just like what you just did, because now you're making music. And that's what I like to do every day. I get up, I sing even before I start playing. So, everything I play, I try to sing it. I try to sing it, so if I can sing it, when I pick up my horn, this is why I'm saying it all the time, half the work has been done. Now you have to put in the time on the acts, and you have to learn and know all of your basics. If you don't know all your major scales, learn them. You can fake it till you make it, but put in the time and practice. There's nothing, no problem you have in music that that you cannot correct by doing something basic in your playing. You know what I mean? I said I wasn't going to talk the whole time, and that's pretty much what I've done up until now. Does anyone have any questions about anything? Yes.
What are you, when you're improvising, what are you doing to like think up the motifs you play? Like,
I think about the rhythms first, and when I'm improvising, so I practice, licks or ideas by myself. When I'm playing with a band, and this is another great skill to develop, to learn how to listen. You can listen to a jazz recording 1 time, 10 times, 30 times, 40 times, and always hear something different. So when I'm playing, by myself, I'm working on things that I may want to play. Like a couple of phrases I played earlier, I didn't necessarily get them. And when I get to my horn, if I'm singing something, oftentimes the first thing I play is what I'm singing. I don't warm up into it. For me, the music starts when I wake up. And if I'm singing something, when I pick up my horn, that's what I play. So even without a proper warm up, it may be this. I may just play that. So when I'm playing with a group of people, musicians, what am I thinking about? I'm interacting with them. Someone over here said something earlier about having a conversation. That's the best way to improvise when it's collective. So I'm reacting to the rhythm the drummer's playing, the rhythm and what the bass player is playing, the chords that the piano player is playing, and hopefully they're listening to me. Every time I play with a group I haven't played with before, I'll call some basic tunes like It Don't Mean a Thing, a blues. Why do I call it a blues? I want to see we'll play a dominant blues. So when I'm listening within the first couple of choruses, I can tell whether or not they're listening to each other and whether or not they're listening to me. And if they're listening to each other, like if there's a good marriage between the turnaround and the 9th bar to the 12th bar, the 9 bars 9 through 12 in the blues, if they're playing a 2-5 turnaround together, or 3-6-2-5, or if the piano playing a 5-4 turnaround and the bass player playing a 2-5 turnaround, it's like, okay, they're not listening to each other, so it's no possible way they can listen to what I'm doing. And sometimes, as we're growing as musicians, we have to train ourselves to listen and to be able to hear all of those things that are happening. When that does happen, that's when the magic happens on stage. And it gives me a joy in terms of playing. It's like, wow, okay, I can throw something rhythmically at the drummer. Like we're playing a fast tempo, even with my band of cats that's been playing with me for quite some time. If we're playing something up tempo and I do this, if the drummer goes, okay, rhythmically, So if we're playing a blues, and then I go from a dominant blues into like what we call a bird blues, which just means it's still a blues, it's different changes. And the piano player goes with me, it's like, okay, we're having a dialogue. So yes, the drummer's keeping time, but whose responsibility is it to keep time in the band? Everyone's. Sometimes when I'm playing with my own band, I'll call a tempo very fast, because sometimes during the night, you just kind of want to blow the steam off. And it's just like, I'm just going ahead and get it out of my system and play fast. And if the bass and drums are kind of like this, then I say, okay, lay out, I got it. Bing, and I'll start to play, and I'll let them hear where my time is. So when they come back in together, now we're all in the same time. And I mean, sometimes I'll do that just to clear the air, and just, you know, to create another space, another sound palette. But then, sometimes on the bandstand, it doesn't happen often, but if we're fighting each other, I'm like, oh, you know where to go. Because I'm listening, I'm like, okay, the piano player can, you know, play chomp, but between the bass player and the drummer, if that marriage is not happening, I'm like, I got it, and then I'll play. And I'll give them a signal to come back in, and then what that does is like them, you know, we're all locked in together. So for me, I'm not thinking about any one thing. And there was a time in my development where I said, I was just thinking about what I was playing. And that's okay. It's on the road to to learning how to listen and how to participate in doing that. But you have to practice listening, and you can do that with recordings. And never think that wherever you are in terms of your playing, that it's bad. Because sometimes we say, man, I really dug what I was playing. And you go back and listen to it, I was like, well, it really wasn't that hit. And then sometimes you say, oh man, I just completely messed that up. I said, that was bad. Then you go back and listen to it, and you found that you opened a door to another way to hear something. What you thought was a mistake actually was a new avenue for which you can develop something harmonically, rhythmically, or melodically. And it's like, oh wow, what I thought was bad, or what I like to say are unintended notes. I'll say the wrong notes, unintended notes. And sometimes you open up doors for yourself that you think, I didn't mean to do that. Well, you didn't. You stepped on something, and now you open another door, another avenue to a rhythm that you can play, something you can do melodically or harmonically. And I like to share this story. When I was in high school, or shortly after I was in high school, I was on the road playing professionally, and a friend of mine called me from high school and had a cassette tape of me playing in high school. I was like, man, I'll give you any amount of money, don't let anyone hear that. I said, don't let anyone hear that. And then he gave me the tape, and then I listened to it, and I learned a very important lesson. I said, I don't know, I was kind of thinking, I was feeling kind of ashamed of myself because I was playing. I was like, no, that's on the road to my development. Miles Davis, Louis Armstrong, Benny Goodman, all of them there were days that they couldn't play. There was a time they had to learn how to play. You know, their playing didn't sound so good. They had to learn their skills. They had to fake it till they made it. And then when I listened to it, I was like, well, you know, then I heard it through a different, set of ears, because I was comparing myself to how I play now. It's like, no, it's on the road. It's a part of me, and everything in that recording. On that recording, I said, I sound just like I do now. That's me. If that was not me, then there would be no me now. And it's just like, so, embrace wherever you are in terms of your musical development. You can fake it till you make it, but practice. Get your basics. If you don't know all your scales, that's equivalent to not knowing all your alphabet. You're trying to read and write. Yeah, I know 6 out of 12 major scales. Well, I only know 13 of the 26 letters in the alphabet. But I have to do this book report. You're going to be in trouble. You know what I mean? People with jazz musicians, we talk about, a lot of times you hear saying, it's hard to play in that key. No, it's not. There's no such thing as a hard key. You just may be a little less familiar. A little less familiar. Like to play a blues in A. In America, we do the B-flat concert scale. In band, I think in the orchestra, they do A, or the open strings. And it's like, so we're very familiar. let's play a B flat blues. No, let's play a blues in B. Oh, that's a hard key. No, you practice in B. B becomes, it's no longer difficult. Any other questions? Yes, and then here.
So we heard a modified warm-up because of what you said, time lapse today. Tell us what you do on a day when you're not warming up for a specific gig, but what goes into a typical warm-up for you?
I don't really do them anymore. That warm-up for me, when I play, I learned to, I used to do long tones, I used to do lip flexibility exercises. My practice routine, when I was doing it daily, at least 6 days a week, would take between 2 hours and 45 minutes and 3 hours and 15 minutes, depending on what I decided to leave in and or left out. But playing through all the major scales, lip flexibility exercises, that was the one thing that really hooked up a lot of things for me, where I got a chance to learn how to develop my breathing. So it would consist of like playing through a Clark exercise, Clark technical exercise. My voice still cracking. And I was talking to, when I was playing with, I got that, from Winton. I was asking them one day, I said, how do you play, so fast? How do your ideas flow, at that tempo? And I said, yeah, I know the practicing. He said, well, I'll tell you like Dizzy Gillespie told me. You pick the trumpet up, put it to your face, and you go like, but you and I was like, I didn't really know what to do with that. But then the lesson was what I didn't hear. He sang it. That's what Dizzy told him to do. And when I started doing that, that was when a lot of everything in terms of my breathing, how to breathe, or how to better breathe, along with breathing exercises, began to come into play. It fixed a lot of things in my playing. So if you look at it, it's the same thing I teach to my students. We do make major scales, depending on the day. I do 2 octaves, slurred tongue with arpeggios, chromatic scale. Then the lip flexibility, lip slur portion would take 45 minutes. Because I do, and basically I wouldn't go through, Schlossberg. I just had 2 or 3 exercises that I would do, but it was how I would do them. I'd work on my breathing, play everything slowly, and exercise that was, that had to do with intervals. So. It took me 3 breaths to do that exercise. I can really do it in 2, and at that tempo probably 1, but I'm not so clear today. But I do minor 3rd, major 3rd, perfect 4th, perfect 5th. Then by the time, are we all brass players in here? Yes. By the time you get to the major 6th, where you start skipping partials, that's where it gets a little tricky, because you want it to be, you want everything to sing, clearly. And the wider you get the wider the intervals are, the more you have to have control of your breath in order for it to sing. And I would do that, go up to about a 6. You can open the octaves all the way up to 2 octaves or two octaves in there. But to do it that cleanly, that's difficult. Then I would do a linear slur. And I'm just giving you an abbreviated version, but one that moves like this. So, and as high as you play comfortably, whether it's to the 6th or the 7th partial or spreading over the octaves, that would still have to sing. Do, and then try to do it in one groove. of air. In one breath, all 7 positions. And then, after mastering those, I'd add a third one, which is like the trombone player named Marstella. This exercise here. And then go down. So now you're doing a combination of the two. You're moving linearly and you're dealing with the intervals. And that even has an extension. Helps to have clear sinuses. But to make that sing, and then sometimes I will stretch the exercise instead of doing half steps, whole steps. Minor third. So by the time I do that, I would do all my slurs one way, then I go back just all air. And if I had the time, then I would do it with the legato tongue, then do all of them that way. But if I didn't, it would still take about 45 minutes to do that, and then do it with the tongue attack to go. And I'm just playing them fast, but I would never play them that fast. And that's why it would kind of take that long. That would be the longest part of my, and this is before reading any music, just getting my trombone technique and pedagogy together. So then I would do the clock technical exercise for one whole octave. Then in the minor key, and then either go up the octave or down the octave. And by the time, at the end of that 2.5 hours, I feel pretty good in terms of, what I've worked on, and I probably have a concert that night. But, and then after that, then I start to work on music. So I don't do that anymore. If I feel myself getting a little, like I can't really do anything about my voice, maybe I should drink some tea or something hot. But on the horn, unless I'm physically hurt, I can always just try to meet the challenge of just playing through different things on the horn. And if I do something on a gig, I'm like, man, I didn't really dig that. Let me work on that. Like this. So, and I'll say this about the horn and breathing exercises. I would do that every day, breathing exercises. And I'll show you all one. It might help my throat after I demonstrate this next thing. But breathing exercises and endurance exercises, I want to do 2, maybe 3 times a week, because it really puts a pounding on your face and your chops. But that's how you develop really good endurance. But most importantly, it's important to develop good breathing, because every aspect of your playing comes with having good breath control. So I'll give you an example. I'm gonna try to play A flat major scale in the altissimo register, very high register, by playing the regular positions. Now I'm gonna play it all in one position. I'm gonna try. So. Now I'm going to play it in a false position. A flat is in 3rd position for, or first valve. So A is in 2nd position. But I'm trying to play A flat. breathing, like I can control my voice right now. If you control your breathing, you can control every aspect of playing your instrument. Playing fast is really about breathing. So, and the horn is just, and your instrument is what it is. It's an instrument. The music, whether it's classical music, jazz music, or whatever music you make, it comes from you. If you can control your breathing. And I did this on trumpet one day with Winton. I played the B flat scale, all in open position, B flat concert scale, C scale. You know what I mean? So, I'm sorry, you had a question.
Yeah. For the instruments who aren't commonly in jazz, like the French horns and euphoniums, where's a good opportunity for them to improv?
Whenever they put the horn in the mouth. I mean, you have a French horn, or you said not commonly in jazz. That's just, I'm trying to think of his name. Great euphonium player.
Rich Matheson.
Yeah, Rich Madison. And even great French horn players. An instrument is an instrument. Music is made by the musician. So it's not, an opportunity. Some you can take. Some of the music of The Birth of the Cool with Miles Davis, or even not Afro-Cuban Suite, Stan Kenton. Say it again? The Cuban Fire Suite. Afro-Cuban Fire. No. The Cuban Fire Suite, there's music written for French horns, sometimes with tuba, but again, that's through composed. Improvisation takes place with the musician. Doesn't have anything to do with the instrument. If an instrument, you can make sound on an instrument, you can improvise on an instrument. Like I said earlier, when we played, you all sang, you didn't think about the key, you heard what I did, and you reproduced it immediately. So imagine if you're trying to learn how to improvise or to play any piece of music, it could be melodious etudes, something from Charlier, if you can actually sing it, what that means, if you can sing it accurately and in tune, that means you've internalized the music. And when you internalize music, you can teach yourself to do anything. If you want to play high, you have to work on it. But me, normally, unlike today, it's kind of coming back. I'm still cracking up there. But I'm not afraid to sing high. So when I was singing and playing earlier, I sang in the middle register where everybody was kind of comfortable. Then I was like, I wanted to hear my lady basses. And then when I did this, I didn't really go up there. It's still difficult to do it now. I wanted to, I tell the ladies, hey, get in touch with your masculine side and sing those low notes. Fellas, get in touch with your feminine side and sing the high notes. Now, I don't want to be teetering on saying anything improper, but it was just kind of the way that I learned. So if I sing high, I won't be afraid to play high. What does that feel like? Still cracking. So I sang up there. And matter of fact, speaking of playing high, I have another story with, I was playing with the Smithsonian Masterworks Jazz Orchestra one year when David Baker was conducting. I had a call to play lead trombone chair, and it was cool. It was fun. And then they called me back the next year and they asked me to play the second part. And I was like, well, I thought I nailed it. I didn't really have the big hit or anything, but I just thought I I thought I did, but they were attributed to J.J. Johnson, and a lot of the jazz writing and arranging, a lot of the solos are put in the second trumpet book or the second trombone book, because those people playing lead, like there'd be a lead trumpet player. It's often thought that a lot of lead trumpet players don't improvise, but that's not true. Maynard Ferguson can improvise with the best of them, but typically that's how it's done. So when you are in publishing, a lot of times I will get something from Alfred that says we want to make this grade three for high school. Not too many sharps, not too many flats, not so high. They're parameters. In jazz, if you don't have any parameters, it's like, which is what I found out on this gig, which was why they had me playing second trombone. This guy named Dave Steinmeier was playing first trombone. Now I heard his music before. He's a great trombonist, used to play with Airmen of Note. I was like, man, I'm still thinking. And then we start rehearsing, and he stands up to play, and like his first note was this. Yeah, that was like in his low register. I'm like, I said, I should be playing bass trombone on a gig. And I was just like, wow, because trombone players and jazz, like, you got this F. You got the F, you good. That's all we need. Don't need that. Here comes Dave Steinmeier playing a 6 above that. And just whistling, playing soft and beautifully. I'm like, I was sitting in my chair. I said, oh, man. I said, how do you do that? And he said, sometimes like when I get off of a gig, I've been playing a hard gig, I practice in that register. Now that sounds completely stupid, because we've been told after the gig to warm down. But I listened to him and I did it for 2 weeks. And I did it for, I continue to do it more than 2 weeks. After the gig, I just practiced, just starting on, and just going higher. And before I knew it, I was able to hit that D. It's gonna come out one way or the other. And no matter how tired I was, I call it my Steinmeier D. I said, so now that's the top of my range. My range extended by a 6 just because I heard someone do it. And that's not even, he didn't stop there. We were in the dressing room before a gig one night, and I was walking by, and I just heard this. I got it, I did. I was like, what are you talking about? I just hit that, an F, an octave and a minor third above that, this F, the highest note on the piano, and of course I couldn't hear it because you had to be a dog to hear that. Coming out of the trombone, but I believed him, because when you sit there and you watch him playing, it's just like, with the greatest of ease, you think it's like, trumpet players would just be, hitting on a higher note than the lead trumpet at the end of a tune, and it's just cool. And I was like, wow. So I said, hey man, I thank you for, that inspiration. But anything that you want to do in music, try to sing it first. Before you working on the solo, some changes. You want to play jazz, it's the easiest thing in the world to do. Take a recording by Miles Davis, J.J. Johnson, or whoever you want to listen to. Something that's pretty attainable based on your ability to play. Sing it. Just sing it over and over, and you get to your horn and just start working on it. When I was in college, kind of broke and poor, I bought my realistic stereo system from Radio Shack. I was proud to have my realistic stereo with the 2 cassette players in it, and I was listening to cassettes because that was the portable means of music we had when I was in school. This was shortly before, a couple of years before CDs came out, and I was trying to do transcriptions. Little did I know, my tape player was playing upper half step, and my friends thought that I was hip because I was learning solos in different keys. I was like, what are y'all talking about? And then I said, oh, my cheap stereo is broken. But that was a good lesson, because once you start going in different keys, there's no limit. When there's no limit to what you can play. It's like, what key is that song in? Not in any key, it's in all of them. You know what I mean? Any other questions? Yes. Yes.
Who's your favorite trombone player to listen to and your favorite non-trombone player to listen to?
My favorite non-trombone player to listen to is Louis Armstrong. My favorite trombone player to listen to is Louis Armstrong. No, I don't. That's a hard question. Because I would debate with anyone that the school of trombone playing, the trumpet players are most widely known, saxophone players, yes, all day long. But in terms of schools, palace of sound, I think if you go down the lineage of trombone players from Jack T. Gardner and before to J.J. Johnson and after, it's a much wider palette in terms of schools of playing, even the plunger schools alone. I didn't really demonstrate that, but the difference between the way Al Gray will play the plunger and Sam Natton. The schools of the different schools of plunger playing, you know, that alone. There are many more well-known trumpeters, many more well-known saxophone players. But in terms of schools and palettes of sound, I think the trombone it had to be hands down. If you're talking about the bebop trombone players, if you're talking about the early trombone players, like Jack T. Gardner's one of my favorites, but so is, Trummy Young. You're talking about schools of plunger playing. Love Tricky Sam Natton. I love Al Gray. I got a chance to play with him. He used to play open plunger. Quentin Butter Jackson, the way that he played the plunger, the way he sang made the plunger sing. And then this guy named Booty Wood. One of the solos I always give my students to learn is Booty, not Booty, but that's his nickname. I've got to look up the real name, but Booty Woods was his name, and there's a solo on the record called Blues in Orbit, Sweet and Pungent. 3 choruses that if you learn to play that solo, you get about 95% of the language that you need to play any plunger solo. So anyway, I just demonstrated a little bit of plunger, and I know I didn't answer your question. The students, what I give to my students is from 2 schools. That's where we start. J.J. Johnson for one, because in order to play a J.J. Johnson solo, you have to have a certain level of mastery of the trombone to just play it that clean. And I'm just like, wow. And then someone like Vic Dickinson or Dickie Wells, who plays the trombone, what some people consider to be, it's a trombone. We have a slide. And so he used the slide when he played. JJ. He would just play the horn clean. So if you can learn that solo, and I'd assign solos for them to learn, not just to get the notes, but to get the inflections. Not just like what I did. And I'm reminded, I say J.J. Johnson, of a student that graduated from Juilliard in the playing classical trombone, studying with Joe Alessi, and then but he always wanted to play in the jazz band. And so he auditioned and got into Juilliard Jazz. I said, what you want to work on first lesson? He said, well, I want to deal with this with my range and my articulation and something. I said, okay, I want you to learn this J.J. Johnson solo and this, and then before I could finish, he said, well, I really don't want to sound like J.J. Johnson. I said, you know what? You don't have to worry about that too much. That ain't gonna happen. You're not gonna sound like J.J. But if you try to sound like J.J., you're gonna find something out about your sound and your personality. You can do a good imitation. You'll never sound like J.J. Johnson. I'm not gonna ever sound like J.J. Johnson. The best I can do is to learn that language, the way he articulated, the way he used to slide, and the way he would phrase. And then you have palettes of sound that you can now call on to play. So he was very successful playing with the symphony, and I think in Korea now. But he was funny. So needless to say, he wasn't my student for that. I think for one semester, and we were cool. I happened to leave Juilliard and then start teaching at the Manhattan School of Music. So I'll demonstrate something on the plunger, maybe take another question, and I'm not really looking at the time, but I think we're good. Any other questions? Any other answers? Any other anecdotes? Come on, anything. When I leave, I think we have a rehearsal. Yes.
What type of mouthpiece were you playing on?
This mouthpiece is mine. It's a wycliffe Gordon model mouthpiece. I was playing for years. You know, we all start on whatever comes with your horn. My first horn was a Bundy. I don't know if it was a Bundy mouthpiece, but Bach has kind of been the staple of this, or the standard by which all other mouthpieces are made. Whether you play a Greg Black or whatever, it's like, what size is it? People normally talk about Bach, you know, the size of Bach mouthpieces. So I was playing Greg Black and Dave Monette. I played one of his mouthpieces. It wasn't the one he said that he made for me. And I met Greg Black, and he said, I want to, you know, give you an endorsement. So I said, let me give Monette the first right of refusal. I said, you do endorsements? He said, no, if I did that, I have to give Winston all my money. I said, well, can you not make that mouthpiece? People are buying the mouthpiece thinking that's the mouthpiece I play. So I played Greg Black for a while, and I did have a couple of Monette mouthpieces I liked. Then my wife introduced me to a good friend, Peter Pickett, who was making trumpet mouthpieces. He had never made trombone mouthpieces before, and I said, I want you to make me a mouthpiece. And he took this steel cylinder, he cut out 4 mouth. I said, I like this Greg Black mouthpiece, and what I like about this is this. I have this Monette mouthpiece, and what I like about this is that. And then he, you know, got the measuring on the mouthpiece, and then he cut out 4, I narrowed it down to 2, and then eventually wound up with this one. You know, this one, which became, you know, my model mouthpiece. Even the shape, it may look like something you've seen before, but I do have my mouthpiece line. I made like a beginner mouthpiece, which is equivalent to, again, Bach 11C, a middle, I'll say immediate. If I had to say beginner, intermediate, advanced, I have it's online, it says The Apprentice, which deals with it. I'm in the Masons, it's like The Apprentice, Entered Apprentice, then Fellow Craft. So my mouthpieces are called the Apprentice, Fellow, and then Master mouthpiece. And this is the one that I play. And I designed one called the Classic for my large bore trombone. Then I have one called the Boss for my bass trombone. And then, what is the one for the tuba? I forget. Say it again? Yeah, I call that the rock. But yeah, it's so I did my own line of mouthpieces. I'm like, well, why not? I had someone that make them, and you can order it at my website or go to peterpickett.com. But you know, my wife over there, April, she's the one that kind of fostered that relationship, and because of it, now a lot of brass players are now buying his mouthpieces. He's now making trumpets. He's doing all brass, tuba, trombone, trumpet, French horn. So this one, the company that did this, I'm saying coating, whatever it is. I don't even know the technical term for it, but a friend of ours named Vinny DiMartino was playing one. I said, man, what's up with that black mouthpiece? Is it plastic? He said, I like it. It kind of sticks. And I had Peter to make me one, and make one in different sizes. And I had it for 2 years before I started playing it. I said, I'm going to try it out. It's the same size. It's still silver plated and all that. But I started playing it, and I love it. And then of course the company that makes them they don't make them. They don't do that anymore. I don't know why. I have to call Peter and find out. But it's a Wycliffe Gordon. Let's see what it says. Yeah, it says master fellow, and apprentice for the small bore horns. And then classic. That's my classical horn, my large bore horn. Boss for the bass trombone. No, but I just have one, 3 for the and then 1 tuba mouthpiece. Any other questions? Is that pizza? Any other questions about music, about college, careers, high school, middle school, brass players? Any? Well, this may be a good time to yes.
I was going to say, when you're saying sing the music, when you're born, you're imitating your parents. That's how you learn language. In order to play trombone like that, you have to play at the speed of thought. So if you imagine how much practicing you have to do when you're a small toddler, you go mama, dada, mama, dada. You're imitating the voice. So listening to a lot of jazz, opera, everything, and then sing along with it, whatever style it is. It's going to take a long time, but if you put in the time, it'll happen.
Yeah, he said it's going to take a long time, and long is a matter of perspective. If you're underwater, 30 seconds can be long. To do this, a week can be long, but to learn to do something that may take a week, it may take a month, it may take a year. But in the span of your life, it's like, I'm still learning to do things on trombone. I'm still learning things about myself. But the long time, it takes a commitment. And if you committed, the time is not long, because when you look back, it's like this, when I told y'all earlier about listening to that tape of myself in high school, that was like probably 10 years later. 10 years is a long time, but 10 years, now that was 30-something years ago. So in perspective, it's like, I'm committed to playing and committed to learning. You're not ever going to stop learning, just like, we play the melodious etudes, and I challenge my students. When I first started learning melodious etudes in high school, I kind of could memorize it. I would read it. Then once I started singing them, I was like, oh, okay, develop your song style on playing trombone. Then I kept singing it. Then I began to hear the chord changes. The chord changes. The song. It's all a song. It's like, it's a song. So when I'm playing, that's number 1 in book 1 of one out of 60, number 27. I was like, that's an E. It's like, then you hear this. You hear that, and it's like, okay, that's an easy time to stop. I want to stop in 2 minutes. And I'll get to your question. Then I challenged my students. I said, learn this song. Now you know the song. You remember how we were singing earlier? Didn't matter the key. So I said, then call out a key. Let's do it in a different key. Give me a key.
A flat.
A flat and G. I can't do them at the same time. A flat. Okay. So when you know the song, then you can play it. Give me another key.
Be natural.
You said it silently. Be natural?
Minor.
Be who?
I just said minor.
Be natural. Well, the song is major. I mean, I can make it minor. Matter of fact, I did a classical concert the other day with some trombone trio, and one tune went right into the other. One was minor, and the other one was major, and I didn't show that on my part. I said, that sounds. I said, oh, it's major third. But you said B. Okay. I have to figure it out sometime, but if you know the song and you sing it enough, it's like, and then this is the kind of thing I would a challenge that I would kind of present to my students. A song is a song, and once you learn the song, if you can sing the song, you can play it in any key. I'm about time to stop. You had a question?
I can ask you after.
No, ask me now. 'Cause if we're gonna have pizza, I don't want to. I'm not gonna be able to talk with food in my mouth.
Where did you grow up?
Where did I grow up?
Yeah.
I was born in Waynesboro, Georgia.
What was two?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask this up about like growing up there. Like the only music I had was Burke County High School, so I always thought like I never could make it in music.
You had a good beginning.
Not really. I mean, do you know Jacques Jones?
Who?
Or do you know Jacques Jones or Tommy Princeton? I didn't really get like a taste of music until I met Matt Henderson, and he had me playing Bordoni and playing things in different keys. I didn't know what I was doing, so I was just gonna ask, like, what was your inspiration growing up?
All of my band directors in some way, shape, or form. Like I lived in Waynesboro till I was 10. Waynesboro, and then I moved to Augusta, where in Waynesboro, for those of you that know, back then there was one elementary school, one junior high school, middle school now, one high school, one private school. And when I moved to Augusta, there were several. But I went to Augusta, from Waynesboro to Augusta. Augusta's kind of like a big city. From Augusta to Atlanta, Atlanta's kind of like a big city. From Atlanta to New York, New York is kind of like a big city. So when we're talking about perspectives, it's like you probably got your basics there. There wasn't much exposure. In my house, I heard classical music. This is what I heard all the time. This is what my dad played. Played Beethoven, Mozart. So I heard this. Even though I'm playing it fast. That's what I heard. He played Mozart, Schumann, Schubert. He loved Beethoven. And he had a reel-to-reel recorder on top of his upright grand piano, and he put the speakers in the room. That's what we heard. All we heard is this. He played in church. Gospel music and classical music. So I didn't get jazz until age 13 or 14. 13. and moved to Augusta, and a great honor of mine passion amongst the things that were given to our family was a 5-record collection set of jazz. So it doesn't matter where you start. If you met the opportunity, you met Matt Henderson. Matt Henderson played in the trio that I played with the other day, Thursday morning. He's a great teacher, fun person to hang around, but you got a chance to meet him. Yeah. So I didn't have any, my musical experience in Waynesboro was only at home. I think I went to school up until the 5th grade, and the first time I saw a band was the Army band. They came, and I was like, wow, man, a band. Then they played something, then the saxophonist demonstrated, then the trombonist demonstrated, trumpet player played, piano I heard all my life, then the bass player played his electric bass, then the drummer played like boom, shak, doom. I was like, man, that's it. I want to play drums, that's it. I want to play the drums. It's my first time hearing a band. And that was my only exposure. I mean, they had the high school band, but I heard it in Waynesboro. But then I got music in Augusta. I was in the band, and then it comes to you when you're supposed to. Of course, I asked for a drum set, and it was a complete nope. That's not gonna happen. You don't make enough noise as it is. So I never got my drum set until I got old enough to buy my own. But anyway. So, yeah, I was born in Waynesboro, moved to Augusta, went to college in Florida, and now I'm young. Then left to go on the road with Winston, so now I'm back home in Augusta. And I will say this to you, and then I'll leave you guys to get to your pizza or whatever you all going to do, unless that's just left over. Sometimes the information you seek in music or anything, you have to go look for it. And that's the same thing like practicing, like we were talking about earlier, just being committed. When you're committed, life takes a long time. When you look at your life, most of you all in here, I know you're at least over 10, 12 years old. 10 years is a long time. And then no, it's not. Because 10 more years, you'll be 20. It's like, man, 20 years is a long time. And it's like, well, yeah, but no, it's not. Because in 20 more years, you'll be 40. And then if you're lucky to live long enough, in 40 years after that, it'll be 80. It's all relative. But if you're committed to something, sometimes you just have to go after that information. Now I was kind of like that little dude. My mom used to tell me, she said, you like to find stuff out the hard way. She don't do this. I'm like, well, why not? And I would do it. I mean, when the eye on the stove is red, it really is hot. Don't touch it. So anyway, thank you for listening to me today. It's a great talking.